And I thought learning could only happen in the school, and learning was a negative thing. It was a drudgery. It was something that you had to do, that you were forced to do, something that you had to take tests for, something that you had to be critiqued in papers. And it wasn't something that was just organic or fun to do. And I walked into homeschooling having that mindset.
Welcome to Little by Little Homeschool Podcast, where you'll learn tips and strategies that will empower you to home educate your children. I'm Leigh Nguyen, a homeschool mom of over 12 years, which includes 2 graduates. When I started homeschooling, I was pretty much on my own and was desperate for encouragement and help. My mission is to be a source of encouragement and help to you. Whether you are just beginning your homeschool journey or you're deep into the homeschool lifestyle, Little by Little Homeschool wants to help you stay the course, because all the time you are investing into your children is completely worth it. If you're ready to take your homeschool to new levels, keep listening.
Many years ago, 15 years to be exact, I took my first steps into the homeschool world. We had decided that we were going to change from sending our kids to public school to homeschool. And I was able to attend a homeschool convention. It was so large. There was just so many options of curriculum to purchase and different vendors to see and all of the sessions to attend. And as I walked around the vendor hall, there was just so much. I remember just stopping and looking at everything and being absolutely overwhelmed. But that weekend, I found a resource that now, even 15 years later, is my go-to resource. And that is Rainbow Resource Center. Have you heard of them? If you've not, you need to go check them out. You can go to rainbowresource.com for all the details, but let me tell you a little bit about them. Basically, I was jumping around at different vendors and just felt overwhelmed. And once I got to Rainbow Resource, there was a lot. So that doesn't mean I wasn't absolutely still a little bit overwhelmed. What I found was it was a one-stop shop for me. And the prices were phenomenal. And so for many, many years, when I have decided the curriculum that I wanted to purchase, I would go ahead and just place a big order through Rainbow Resource. Think of a math curriculum. Think of a reading curriculum. Think of a maybe science kit or a science curriculum or history. Guess what? Each of those, I can almost guarantee you'll be able to find at Rainbow Resource. And so it made it really easy for me to be able to place that order and just get everything to come in. Some years it was 1 box, some years it was a handful of boxes. And I wanted to share with you Rainbow Resource today. But not only that, I'd really like to thank Rainbow Resource for coming alongside of us and sponsoring Little by Little Homeschool Conference. We would love to be able to see you at the conference. You can get those details at littlebylittlehomeschool.com/conference. And on that, you will see that Rainbow Resource is one of the sponsors of the conference, and we're so blessed. So I want to encourage you then to go head over to Rainbow Resource. Type in whatever it is you're looking for. Now, today we're going to talk about some summer stuff. We're going to talk about ways you can keep the learning going. Maybe there are, like I mentioned earlier, some science kits, or there's some experiments you want to do, or just some games. There are tons of categories of different products and resources that you can find at Rainbow Resource. So it's not just getting the books there. It's also getting some of the fun things, the things that maybe your kids don't quite realize that they are learning, but they are. So I want to thank Rainbow Resource for sponsoring the conference, and I wanted to share it with you because it's kind of like a pinch me moment when they said, yes, we will sponsor the conference, because here for so many years, I have just really behind the scenes been enjoying Rainbow Resource just as a mom, as a homeschool mom. So go check out rainbowresource.com. The link will also be in the show notes for you. A few weeks ago, I shared with you in an episode that when I began homeschooling, I had the school mentality of looking at the summer. And basically, that was to shut off learning. I thought negatively about learning during the summer, and that came from my own schooling, my own upbringing through the public school system. And I thought learning could only happen in the school, and learning was a negative thing. It was a drudgery. It was something that you had to do, that you were forced to do, something that you had to take tests for, something that you had to be critiqued in papers. And it wasn't something that was just organic or fun to do. And I walked into homeschooling having that mindset. Well, I think all of us, hopefully, if you don't know that yet, listen to a couple more episodes. But we know that this isn't true. It's no longer true. It never was true. It was just kind of ingrained in us because of just culturally and our society of how we perceived education and learning to happen. And so we have worked on that mindset. I know that I have worked on that mindset, and I hope that you as well. And so today I'm going to share the mindset shift that I had to go through and what I wished that I could see the summer, the potential that the summers had. I wish I could see that 15 years ago. Remember I was mentioning earlier about the 15 years? Yeah, that was me, 15 years. And then for the next couple of years, it's how I viewed the summer. Basically, remember I said a couple weeks ago that I would just think of the summers as you would just kind of become a zombie, just shut your brain off and just do anything that did not have to do with learning. And yes, some of our kids were going to have to be maybe a little bit more sneaky about it because they're kind of working through that too, but that's okay. We can still just have a fun time over the summer as well as keeping our minds and the mental part of our brain, the part that we need to refine and the part that we can keep stimulated. We can definitely do that over the summer, and we can keep it simple, and we don't have to make it super complicated. But this is what I'm going to share with you today is what I wish I knew 15 years ago. Let's go back to that word in the title saying simple. Let's keep this simple, but also let's be intentional. Consider these couple things that I'm going to mention here soon when you're thinking about your week, maybe when you're planning out your week. I know that we can very easily shift how we are doing things and be a little bit more free for all in the summer. And that's fine. Because during the school year, we can be like, oh, I'm very focused and I'm very intentional about what I'm doing. And I know for myself during this homeschool year on Sundays, I would take some time and look through the week. But I found that if I do that all year long, even during the summer, even when we are on maybe breaks over Christmas or different holidays, just to take time and take a look just at the week in general. And so when you're considering how can I keep this simple but also be intentional, think about it before you start the week and then think about how can I include these into our week in maybe a organic manner, or maybe it needs to be setting some time aside because you feel like it's important to do. But do not, hear me out here, do not add more stress. Maybe you're right now in a season, you're like, I'm just looking forward to not having to do any math lessons or not have to check off anything on the schedule or following the curriculum. Then you might be in a season where it's just like, you know what? Let's just rest and let's just focus on our family and let's just focus on some other things this summer. All right, so I have 6 different things here to mention to you. So the first thing is play. Play is learning for kids. But there can be a fine line between constructive play and destructive play. And it's good to keep an eye out for that. I remember my kids just being like, this is not a constructive way to play. This is a destructive way of learning, way of playing. And it doesn't mean that there aren't times where maybe they're just kind of destroying things. I don't know. It depends upon, what your focus is on your family and your family culture. But what I'm saying is that the play is learning, but let's focus on it being a constructive kind of learning. It doesn't mean that every single time that they have to be doing any type of math or engineering of building things with Legos. It's also the learning how to do things, to play and to come up with games with others, with whether that's kids in the neighborhood or siblings, or there's a short amount of time that we have to go to the grocery store, so they need to get this play in. So there's a lot of, we'll say maybe some soft skills, which we're going to talk a bit more about in the next episode. But focusing on constructive play over destructive play and how you want to label that. Maybe the constructive play is time that is away from screens and it's not on screens. Or maybe your family is okay with the constructive play on screens. Again, being intentional, keeping it simple and being intentional. But don't negate the time that your kids are playing. That is learning for them. Number 2, ask them what they want to learn about. They might have an area of interest that they want to know more about. Ask them about that. It might be something that just comes up right then, and you might go ahead and get out tons of resources or watch a bunch of videos, and they're like, yeah, I just kind of wanted like a one-liner answer to that. I've done that many times. I've even done that with my teens. They're like, I was just looking for a simple answer. I didn't know this was going to turn into a whole lesson. So you don't have to turn it into a big, huge, formal type of lesson, but ask them what they want to learn about. And then take the time, going back to what I said earlier, taking the time at the beginning of the week and thinking about, how can I carve out some time? How can I put aside some intentional time that we are going to learn about things that they want to learn about? You can even on a Sunday say, hey, what is it, something that you want to know about, you want to learn about? What are you interested in? And maybe you have a trip to the ocean and they might say, are we going to see sharks at the ocean? And you know the water is too cold where you're going to be, and the option of sharks is very, very low. And you can say, no, would you want to learn a little bit more about why they're not going to be there and where we usually find them? I don't know, I'm just giving you just an example. Maybe you're going into the mountains and they're going to say, are there any mountain lions there? Or what? There are going to be rocks there? And you can turn that into something. But again, it doesn't have to be any formal lesson. You don't have to get onto Teachers Pay Teachers, which is a fine website to go to. But you don't have to go there and find some type of unit study or some type of lesson or anything like that. You can just look up some things. Maybe you're going to go to a specific national park. Say you're going to go and you're going to see Old Faithful spouting up, and maybe you do a little bit of research before that and you watch some videos about the history and how they find it, and just kind of go in that way, or find some books or something at the library. My mind's going to go in blank right there. But ask them what they want to learn about, and it might just be a short thing, or it could be something that they want to really dive into for the entire summer. My third idea is to give your children time for developing skills and hobbies. Now, some of these skills and hobbies, you will find that your kids will fly through them very easily and quickly and be like, oh, I spent all of this time and effort into making sure you had the supplies for this, or was like, okay, this is it. This is what they're really going to focus on. This is what they're going to do as a career someday. And then in a couple weeks, couple months, sometimes a couple years, they're like, I don't want to do that anymore. But for this summer, it's okay for them to spend just a little bit of time on something and then say, no, I don't really want to do that anymore. Or you just say, hey, I thought you were going to teach yourself how to play the guitar this summer and you only did it a couple weeks. I didn't really want to do that. Let's just say from experience, I've had that. And then once in a while, might be a couple months, the guitar comes back down off the wall and I hear the kiddo playing it. And then it gets put back up, collects dust for a while, and they pick it up and do it again. None of that time is wasted. Maybe they won't become a famous guitarist. That's okay. Those skills, the things that they are learning, whether it is on their own or you do lessons or you find something online for them, none of that time is wasted. It is going to be skills and information that they're going to then base more information upon afterwards. You're just kind of building that foundation higher and higher. And so ask your kids if there are certain skills or hobbies, or maybe you are recognizing certain skills or hobbies that they are interested in that you'd like to really dive in a little bit deeper now that you have a little bit more time. Or maybe there's a skill or hobby that you want them to learn. It's okay for you to say, you know what, I'm recognizing that this might be good for them. Whether it is because you're recognizing it because it's something that you think they naturally will really do well in, or it's something like, I really just want them to be able to do this. So a certain skill such as cooking. You might say, I'd really like for them someday to be able to leave the house and be able to cook a week of meals really well. Know how to do maybe a week of breakfast and lunch and dinner and snacks, and know how to prepare a certain amount of meals. And so you can work on those skills right now. They might be really small, and you might say, well, someday they're not going to move out for another, 15 years, but we're going to get the proper knives that are going to be safe for them to use, and you'll just continue to build upon that. But it can be skills and hobbies that they say that they want to learn more about. It could be ones that you recognize that they might have a natural bent towards, or it might just be some skills and hobbies that you're like, I think this is going to serve them well in their future. The fourth idea here is reading. You knew I had to say this one, right? At the very, very least, have them read to themselves. Now, we're going to be talking right now about those that can read, and then we'll kind of jump back to those that are maybe pre-readers. So children, tweens, teens, that can read, at the very least, have them reading to themselves. I remember going to the library before the public schools would get out so that we could stock up on books. Because if we waited, we weren't able to get the books that we wanted to be able to get because they were all kind of cleaned out, which is great. I love that the public school kids wanted to come in and to read, but we would stock up on some books. And as they read these books, we would return them so that therefore others are able to take them out. But that might be a little bit of a hint for you if you haven't done that and your schools around you have not gotten out yet. Maybe run on over there or go ahead and just place an order, put a bunch of books on hold or something like that so that you have some books for them to be able to read. But at the very least, have them read alone. If you can, it might be a fun time, especially maybe have a little bit more time in the evenings if there aren't sports and aren't things going on, maybe to do a family read aloud. Typically, read alouds might be at home during homeschool time and it's mom and the kids. What if you did a family read aloud and dad was included? Whether dad did any reading or he just was there, you do it around the campfire cooking s'mores, or you guys cuddle up in somebody's room at night before bed and do a family read aloud. It's a good time to be able to do something entirely as a family. If you're not familiar with read alouds, this might be a good introduction for you. Now, how about audiobooks? Those can be great for kids that are able to read, and they can be great for kids that are not able to read yet. And they also can be good just maybe for a family read aloud. You might say, I just don't have the time, or I am worn out from all the reading that I did during the entire homeschool year. Go ahead and pop in some audiobooks. Maybe it's while you run some errands. Maybe it's while you go on vacation. Or maybe it's simply while the kids are playing. It's maybe super crazy hot outside. You're like, you know what? We're going to take a break from the heat and the sun, and let's come on inside and let's just cool off in the air conditioning and listen to some audiobooks. You can also have your kids read to each other. If you want to develop that skill of being able to read aloud well, this is a great time to be able to introduce that. You can have an older child read to a younger child, especially when an older child is hesitant to read aloud. This can be really good for them to do. Just go to the younger child's bedroom and read to them because they know that this 3-year-old is not going to make fun of them if they have a hard time as they're working on that skill of reading out loud. Number 5, this one's kind of a little bit of a no-brainer, but the outdoors, it naturally leads to learning. Kids have questions. Kids have time to observe what they are seeing when you're outside in nature. Take the time just to sit, maybe to watch an ant, follow it along the sidewalk, see where it goes to. Maybe you'll get to an anthill and you guys just stop and you watch. Now make sure these are not the ants that are going to bite you. They're not red ants or anything like that. We've all done that. We've all sat on an anthill, right? And all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, what is that? But just little things like that. Watch the birds. Maybe watch a bird that has created a nest in a tree near you. Watching the clouds, watching where water goes, what happens when it rains, and just taking time to just stop and observe. Kids can be very good with this. When you stop and they stop and they just watch and listen. And I think it's a really great skill to acquire, to be able to just stop and just be quiet and just to be there in that space, in that time. We don't always have to be doing something. We don't always have to be creating something. We can just be. And these observations, these times of observations, can lead into a lot of discussions. They can lead to questions. You can find out more answers. You can talk about the world that God has created. So there is a lot of learning that can happen just from being outdoors. Lower your expectations and maybe just take time to just wander. Possibly maybe you go somewhere and you're like, we're going to go on this hike and we can do this trail and we can do all this. And the kids just want to maybe take their time. They want to look at things. Maybe it's alongside some water and they want to just, little kids just get down. They crouch down and they just want to be kind of at eye level of the water and they're looking at things. Maybe lower the expectations. There could be some times where you're like, yep, we're going to go ahead and hike. We're going to go and take on this trail and we're going to get to the top and we're going to have a great time. But maybe there's times just to lower the expectations and just let your kids lead. There was one, like a wildlife preserve that was close to us when my kids were growing up, and we would go there often. And I was like, okay, we're going to do this trail. I don't think we ever made it all the way around the trail. because they had other ideas of what they wanted to do. Sometimes they would run, sometimes they would slow down and stop and look at things, and it kind of came let's see how far out we go. We're just going to turn around and come right back. The funny thing is that it was probably about a year ago or so, we were back near there, and I had my youngest with us. It was just myself and my husband. Oh, no, sorry, just me and him. My husband had a meeting to go to. And so we went to this place, and it was a little bit bittersweet, a little bit sad, because he told me he didn't really remember it at all because he was so young when we had moved away from there. And I had taken some videos and some photos, and I sent it to my older two. I texted it to them, and they were like, oh, they knew exactly where we were. I was like, okay, well, at least somebody remembers. But it was just kind of fun because we actually walked the entire trail. I had never done that. I had been there dozens and dozens of times with all three of our kids and had never walked the entire trail. And so here I was, how many years later, able to walk the entire trail. We stopped and looked and listened and saw things and talked about things. But still, that can come when your kids are older. So just take time to just kind of wander around, and they will definitely be learning. And the very last thing I want to mention, number 6, is math. Now, I know that I'm not trying to put like a damper on everything here, but I just want to put a little bug in your ear, and I want you to observe each of your children and say, is this a summer where we need to continue some formal or informal math? And it has to be dependent upon your children. I have found that I had to continue with some formal math, just very simple. There was no lessons. It was just a review. 4 to 5 days a week. There was maybe just 10, 15 minutes. That's it. They would just do their work. I would check it later on in the day. If anything was wrong, they would correct it. But what it did was really help them to retain their math facts and the skills. Like, so say they were doing long division. That way, when we started up with the homeschool year, I didn't have to re-explain how to do long division, where to divide into, where to multiply, where do you put the remainder, and what if this number is too big? That wasn't the right number to put up there. I didn't have to re-explain those things to them because they just did it just a little at a time as we went through the summer, and they didn't lose that information. And so you might need to take a look and say, is this a summer that maybe we need to do something a little bit more formal? And again, it doesn't have to be crazy formal. It can just be semi-formal. Maybe just some type of review sheets, and that would be enough. Maybe it is some games that you have on your phone or an iPad or a computer or a subscription you have to something. Or you might say, you know what, my kids are young, or they feel pretty solid with their stuff. We're just going to kind of do some informal types of math as you're out walking. How many trees are in that person's yard, and those kinds of things. So take a look and see, is this a summer that I need to continue with the math work so that we don't do any type of regression? So those are 6 ideas for you. Take what's going to work for you this summer, and don't worry about the rest. Keep it simple. Be intentional, and definitely have fun with your kids this summer. If you are looking for purchasing some more of your curriculum that you know you need, or curriculum that you're curious about, I want to again recommend to you Rainbow Resource. You can go to rainbowresource.com. The link will be in the show notes as well. Like I said, think of a curriculum. It is probably there. Maybe you're looking for some fun games. You're looking for some supplemental things. They have those as well. It's such a blessing to be able to work with a company that is really for you and that has been around for a while and has seen so much and has so much experience in the homeschool world. And so been blessed absolutely to be able to shop for myself at Rainbow Resource for so many years, and now blessed to have them come alongside us and sponsor the conference. So again, go to rainbowresource.com for all of your homeschool needs.
Thank you for listening, friend. I'd love to connect with you more. You can find social media links in the show notes, and share this episode with a friend who could use a boost to her homeschool. See you back here real soon.